Is Councillor Smith coming, do you know, or?
Maybe he saw where he was on the agenda and
Yeah, I
decided
think-
to come late. I haven't heard otherwise.
Okay.
Or probably let us ask.
Mayor, could you fill in for Councillor Creed and say our name prayer? Councillor Smith. Or Councillor Smith?
Our kind Heavenly Father, we approach Thee in prayer with gratitude in our hearts for the blessings Thou hast given to us. Thou hast been abundantly kind and loving to us in our community. Grateful and acknowledge Thy goodness and Thy generosity unto Thee. We're grateful for this great community, and we're mindful of the obligation that we've undertaken as elected officials. We pray for guidance, Father, that our thoughts might be clear, that we might have the resolve and the clarity of thinking and mind to do those things which are for the best of the community. We pray that Thy Spirit will attend us as we gather and as we convene at this meeting, that we will always be able to have civility, respect here at this council table and in the proceedings. We again thank Thee for all Thou hast given us, and we pray for Thy Spirit to be with us in the name of Thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Good timing, Councillor.
You get the closing prayer.
I get the closing prayer? Well, according to my watch, it's still 3:59. So.
Well, that's what I was going for. We got to change that clock.
According to mine, it's 3:59.
I'd like to welcome Channel 32. And are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, we have one change. The 4 o'clock delegation won't be coming here as Tony Walker is sick. So can we have someone approve the agenda?
Motion.
Approved by Councillor Court. Are there any corrections to the minutes of September the 4th, 2012?
Vote on the
All in favor?
Thank you. There we go. Good.
Okay, are there any changes to the minutes from September the 4th?
Also move.
Move approval.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, business arising, the joint use agreement. Have you had a chance to look over that?
There was a couple of
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any concerns, but in accordance with the request of administration to approve in principle, pending completion of negotiation on the rates, I would move that recommendation be made to council to approve in principle the joint use agreement.
Councillor Cronin?
Can I ask some questions regarding the agreement? Would that be in order?
Yep.
Thank you. I just was trying to understand the language used in section C that said general and point 2. I was trying to see how it fitted with the bylaw that we have in our town. It says facilities shall not generally be available for booking under this agreement on statutory holidays and Sundays. I was trying to understand how it went together with what we voted not so long ago.
I think I can answer that because we're not just dealing with town facilities here. We're
No,
dealing with
it's
school
because
facilities as
school,
well.
this is what I
think that's the
wanted.
reason they left that open like that, in case the use of the school, I don't know if they plan on using it on a Sunday or something.
I think Jeff.
I can speak. One of the uses we're intending is Remembrance Day using the high school this year on a
Okay,
Sunday.
so this is what it
That's the
covers,
intent of
those
it,
type
yes.
of
Yeah.
thing, okay.
Mr.
I think one other distinction, and it in my mind is a very clear distinction, is the bylaw that we just failed has to do specifically with sports.
Okay, all right, so that is really any kind of activity is not restricted to one time, all right.
Now, let me, no, go ahead. I just have a follow-up question.
Well, I just had another question regarding E3. It talks about the joint use committee shall be responsible for the following function: develop a 5-year capital plan for Lions Park. And I try to understand, why is that section restricted only to Lions Park? Maybe somebody can talk.
Much of the use of the Lions Park is by the schools, especially
All right.
the football team and the baseball
Okay.
team. And that's why they want to kind of get something organized there.
Okay, all right, I was not so sure. Thank you.
I just, to answer that too, Mel Cottle specifically mentioned that when he made his presentation, that we need, in order to make sure that we can control the Lions Park, he says it would be better to have a joint use committee actually work on that, rather than it being, the school trying to tell them, or the, town telling.
Case in point this fall is that rec board doesn't, and there's actually bylaws, we cannot use diesel on the lines to mark the lines. If you paint the lines, the grass grows over, and every 2 weeks you're spending $400 to paint the field.
So then you're choking
So this
it.
joint use agreement, this plan, we hope will solve that problem. Try and figure out how we can both make it acceptable that we can mark the lines without using environmentally unfriendly stuff. Crazy enough, you could actually use weed killer on it, but you can't use Roundup, but you can't use diesel on it. So that's kind of what they're talking about there, to try and solve those problems between the school and the town, the use of the ball diamonds.
Okay.
It gets used quite heavily with, the soccer field has taken some of that use off, which has helped. But another case problem we're having right now is it's being used so much we can't really keep it up. So if
Okay.
you see it lately, there's been some
Yeah, it's pretty
areas
bad.
that are kind of spotty in there. So rec board's problem is that they need some time to get the grass to grow, and the schools, their problem is the seasons start and go, and then they have to get going on it. So that's kind of what that was all about there.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Two questions. Just reading through there, I didn't see an out in the clause there for us.
There is.
There is one?
Yeah.
What's,
Review, it says there will be
it
an
says a
annual
review, an
review.
annual review, but it doesn't give us an out.
The board reserves right to
Yeah.
deny access, that one, or?
Yeah.
I think we need to put a note clause just in case something goes wrong there.
Well, yeah.
And may request.
An annual review, yeah. Yeah, it says annual review, but.
No, but
In just about all the
it-
cases, it's the schools using the town's facilities, not the other way around.
Yeah.
We'll use it for Remembrance Day. There are some towns, but there's like morning ball and stuff like that goes on in that, but by far the largest majority of the use is being used by the schools.
By the school for the town.
Especially on the outside. Now, there is stuff that happens at the school, like they used to have this cooking class. I don't think they still have it there. It was at the school and a few things, but, yeah. So,
I'd like to see like a 6-month or something, a 3-month. Clause or something.
the agreement's been in place for 40 years. I don't think we're gonna go out on it anytime soon.
And there is some provisions for review and for.
Well, it says at any time, one of the party could
Access.
request
Okay.
amendments or whatever.
Yeah.
Because
and-
obviously, you've got to give us control over our facilities. If they want to use it, we have something else we need it for, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So,
Could have appropriate notice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing, are we okay with, how they have the,
The fees,
like
the
the
fee
group,
schedule.
or, sorry, what's,
The club?
like they want 2 administration from Cardston, and then they want 2 from, the Western School Division, and
And
one
one citizen at
citizen at
large.
large. Do we want someone on, from council on that as well, maybe, or are we okay with administration just alone on there, or what?
I will say there was some intent there not to eliminate the political leaders for those, but the thought was that all of this information could come back to the respective school board and councils via the budget process, is where it would come back. And then at that point in time, council has discretion over whether or not they approve the plans or the expenses budgeted for that. So that was some of the theory, that we can get together quite readily as administration and work on this as needs be, and then we'll present it to our respective governments for approval via budget. And I should mention also, the school board has approved this in principle on their side as well already.
So I was just thinking that, because I mean, we hear from the public a lot there that maybe, we might be able to put something different in there, so. It's up to you, I mean,
Well, I'm already on the rec board. If this joint use committee, I have no problem with having the administration deal with it and then give us the information later on.
okay, if you guys are okay with that.
You say they can
then
meet at times when we can't, we all seem to have enough committee meetings to go to already. So,
Yeah, okay.
My guess is the intent of the committee is to deal with, from an operational perspective, for us as council, we typically make political decisions, policy decisions, but that committee, with administration being heavily involved, I think really will deal more with the operational kinds of things.
Okay.
Just a couple comments if I could. I spoke a little bit about this with Jeff earlier in the week, and as we all know, there's several 10 or 12 patches down there that just kind of look dead and ugly. And I don't think that's from abuse of it by anybody. I think more than anything else, I don't think our sprinkling system's been reaching it. But to address that in part, the community irrigation line that's just now coming into use has a ton of pressure behind it. And my guess is that those spots which looks like they're not getting a lot of water, should get water with a lot of pressure in that community irrigation line.
At this point.
Another thing too that I know we've just discussed and been concerned about is the old, small, open kitchen down there is terrible. The newer round kitchen is almost as bad. So Lions Park does need some serious upgrading, and that's where I hope that we will see some opportunity through the 5-year capital plan for the Lions Park to address some of those issues. I know about a year ago, a leadership candidate for the position of premier was in town, and when Gary Marr was here, a barbecue wiener roast was hosted down there, and quite frankly, it was very embarrassing to be on that facility. So it does need some attention, and just in that process, hopefully we can get, and maybe at some point Jeff will be able to speak to the 5-year capital master plan on that.
I think if we do a 5-year capital plan or a 5-year improvement plan and plan to do so much each year for the next 5 years, we'll accomplish our goal and solve some of our problems as referring to the quality of the kitchen and the facilities that are there. And I think we need to put in our budget, which we're going to do here, review here very shortly.
Question, is the Lions Club still active and functional? We have the Lions Club still going in town?
Yeah.
People.
That's about it, eh?
Yeah, but they
Do they want to participate in that project?
Well, they can always be
asked. They can always be asked.
But,
Yeah,
you know,
I
I mean,
understand.
financial support would be welcome.
They may be able to access stuff that we can't.
Well, they might be able to get grants.
Just one other piece. Go ahead, Councillor Creed. I just got one other thing I want to make sure we have some discussion on before you're done with this topic.
Yeah, actually, I just had a couple of points on wording, and, you know, if we cleared up. One may be just a typo. It's in, under section B1, on the last line, talking about the school board reserves the right to bump bookings with reasonable notice to the schools. I thought that should be maybe an if.
Oh, if,
in there.
yeah,
Is
sure.
that right? And the other question I had on under A, I just wondered if there was a distinction between number 4 and number 6. They both seem to say very close to the same thing.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I'll look at that and see if the school board sees if it has any material difference. If not, we'll get rid of it.
Yeah, okay.
I think that begs the question that if the school board reserves the right to bump bookings, then the other party to the agreement should reserve the right to bump bookings as well.
I think it's in there, isn't
We
it?
do, it's
It
in
is there.
B1,
Yeah.
in B1, if you look at it,
Yeah, A is all to do with what the school
you see?
use of town, and B is the use of school.
They're both very similar for on
Okay,
each.
all right. Yeah, oh, okay, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, it's,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Any further discussion?
Just to Mr. Cottle has put a lot of time and effort into this. I
Yeah,
appreciate
he
the
did.
work he's done on this.
I wanted to mention that too. Dr. Cottle's done a ton of work, but one thing I want a little bit of feedback on, not to belabor this issue, is the application on the back has a town logo on it.
Yeah.
One of the things you remember Dr. Cottle saying that they're trying to figure out a way to manage is what's a school-sponsored group and what's a town-sponsored group? What does that mean? And who has the opportunity to use facilities at no charge or minimum charge, and who's covered with insurance and who's not? And so I just wanted, if there was any comments and thoughts, what we put together was this application with the intent to say, okay, you as an organization or club, we feel that you have a benevolent purpose. We see your purpose is beneficial to the community. You need resources and facilities and those things. Okay, you pay a fee per participant to the town. We will cover you with participants' insurance, and you are now an official town organization. Or a town-sponsored organization, that's a better way to put it. We don't run them, we don't manage them per se, but we will insure them. And again, that insurance, not to be confused, doesn't so much protect them as us.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
we're not
liability.
insuring them if they miss work or if they have, expenses due to injury. It's really liability insurance
Right.
for us that costs us, and it's above and beyond our regular policy. The school is basically proposing the same thing, that there are a number of groups to which they consider to be school-sponsored activities, and they will provide insurance for them.
Okay, so,
Ursula?
It seems to me that a very simple
definition.
definition would follow something like this. If a group is clearly under the auspices of Westwood School Division, and the Westwood School Division acknowledges that they are, and then everybody else, probably by definition as well, is a community or a town-based group. Now you've got an example that I think will be clarified in the process here. Selects is a group of young men and group of young women. They're all high school students, and they play basketball every Thursday night. And maybe the girls play a different night or different gym or something. They are all high school students. And my guess is that as this joint use agreement moves forward, Selects will likely be defined under that umbrella as a West Wind group. And I think as part of that,
I'll probably disagree with you on that.
Selects,
Yeah, I think I don't think that schools will take that as part of their,
you can't play if you're not a high school student. You can't.
understand that.
So my guess
Same thing
is,
with minor football, I mean, you're a junior high student, but that's not under the school's auspices.
I'd be very, very willing to bet you that in the process, as it plays out, Westwood School Division will accept under their insurance the Select as a school group. Because, in fact, we should pursue that because
That's what I
they
thought. What don't we
they are
ask?
all high school students. They can't be on there if they're not a high school student.
But that's precisely the intent of this, is we determine who they are.
Joint use of
Yeah,
people, that's exactly.
they have to be
them.
sorted out so that we know who's covering them, and all of them must participate either with the school or the town one way or another, because we have so many groups that fall into the fringe, right? There's a lot of them, we're not sure at the end of the day who's responsible for providing facilities and providing insurance and those things. So that is definitely the intent, is that where will they all fall out?
So is that something that can be hammered out by the administration and the West Winds Division or by themselves there?
I think-
If that's the group that they wanna,
Yeah, my opinion is that 90% of those can be hammered out quite simply through administration, and there are going to be some that maybe are going to be a little bit politically dicey, that maybe needs to come to the school board and the council. But I don't anticipate maybe one of them, two of them maybe, but the rest I'm quite sure we can determine where they belong.
sure.
Okay,
So my question is that since we've had this joint use agreement already in place, what have they done in the past, or is that the problem? Has it been fuzzy?
That's the problem. This application, whatever a town-sponsored organization is, has never been dealt with in the former agreement. It wasn't addressed, and so you have groups like early morning basketball, women's volleyball. They're just ad hoc groups, loosely organized, that get together. Somebody's got a key to the high school, so that's where they play. The school's not particularly fond of it, but we don't necessarily have a facility for them.
Okay.
So that's why this is kind of what started bringing all this to a head. Councillor Court, I think, has been on the board most of this time and can say that's kind of what brought all this to light.
I really think then that once both administration kind of hash it out and try to sort them, into town or high school, I think then you will get a better picture, and maybe then this agreement should have definition of town sponsor and school sponsor added to it. But I don't think you can do it until you have defined what it is. I think it's by the groups that you're going to end up by finding what your definition is.
This is the purpose of this, is to do that. Even the previous council, we had to deal with this because there are all these groups that the town doesn't really want responsibility for.
Right.
But we will have liability insurance if they're using our facilities or the school's facilities. And so we had this discussion with the previous council on this.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Call's been trying to clarify. He's been working on this since what, March?
Yeah, but I can see his problem too to define. I mean, had he been able to define it, you would have. But it didn't, because for him it's those gray areas that needs to be clarified. Once it's clarified, the definition will come easy.
So would this joint use committee also maybe be responsible to determine which group is their town groups? And does the school group have a similar form for people who want to apply to be a school-sponsored organization, like distance for?
Right, I'm not sure what they've developed for that and what they're going to consider. And again, this is all that is what has to be sorted out. I mean, we have groups for it. Example, the high school started a rugby team, but they actually, their first year, they weren't kind of yet sanctioned by the high school. And so the question was, are they a town group? And yet it was all high school students. And now I think they are sanctioned and it's all a high school
First year
thing,
they
but-
played under the Fort McLeod team.
Yeah, and they were practicing
I
here.
think the boys still do work with Fort McLeod, but the girls
Yeah.
started this year.
Yep,
So I'm not sure what this.
yeah, so lots of details to work
My
out.
thinking is we need to let the joint use committee deal with
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if that would be a joint use.
So added into the description of the committee.
Of their, and then
Yeah,
the
it
group
should
would
be
be,
added on.
one of these fuzzy groups that you're not sure of where they belong, and they would be asked to apply either to the town or to the school
Yeah.
as a,
Whether it's under ASA rules or
How's
not.
how's the citizen at large appointed to the, how do they do that?
The rec board, I think, will.
Would be recommended by the rec.
Okay.
Perhaps even one of the citizens at large from the rec board. You know, maybe a connection or a conduit there.
Interestingly enough, if I could, Mr. Chairman, Drumheller football team came here a week ago Friday. And I thought they were going to be called the Dinos, because of all the ruins and the fossils over there. Well, they're called the Titans, but they're not a high school team. So interesting situation, they're not a high school team. So my guess is they probably have to go to somebody somewhere and get some insurance coverage, because if you're a parent and your kid's traveling and there's a bus accident someplace, you want to make sure that there's some insurance. And my guess is it's probably under the community and not under the high school, because if they were going to be a high school team, then there's going to have to be at least one coach that's a high school teacher, pretty much by requirement of at least West Wind School Division. There's almost got to be somebody on that bus that's a staff member.
It's interesting because they are ASAA, I mean, they're in provincials and they're on a high school team, that surprises me.
Yeah. That was quite surprising.
Any further discussion?
So the motion's on the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, could you read back the recommendation?
Moved by Mayor Scow to recommend to council to approve the joint use of facilities agreement between the town of Cardston and the West Wind School Division in principle.
Would you like to add pending amendments? I have a number of
We
notes
should.
here,
yeah, I think so.
if that's agreeable
Pending
to you,
amendments,
Mayor.
and I think also cost determination was another factor that, like, our facilities are listed here, but they
So we
don't have
don't know.
any charge
Yeah.
for the schools.
I talked to the superintendent, they've asked to have a little more time to get that determined, so that's why in my notes, if we could go forward in principle, and then we'll continue to negotiate the fees.
Okay.
Amendments.
Okay, all in favor of the recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So uniforms wear must be qualified.
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion on that?
We're talking about what, the safety codes? Is that what we want?
Safety codes.
Well,
Councillor Conlon?
I had a point, but I think Jill might have communicated that to you, that the agreement on page 4, the way it's written, seems to be the template as you got it from, I don't know whom, because it's an administration of the insert name of municipality, so I thought Town of Cardston should be there, if that's a final document we're going to use.
Oh, okay.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I'm sure, yes. Yeah, it's a Safety Codes Council template, yes.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. And then there was just a silly point on the declaration of status. I was trying to understand the language. It says the SCOS, which stands for Safety Code Officers. Then it says, comma, staff, comma, officers. And I was thinking, do that mean somebody else? Who are those other officers?
I think they have to be
I think
somebody
there's-
else because we don't always have the qualified person on staff to be a safety inspector. And that's probably this, so this would be a question, Mr. Chairman, that administration might need to answer, is in all these instances where it talks about inspection of the natural gas,
Plumbing
inspection
and
of the
whatever.
plumbing, inspection of the electrical, and I believe it must intend that we can contract that out to such as Park Industries, or as in the past Permit Pro, but now Park Industries has taken over the lion's share of that. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, on this, 90% of this has to do with if we're dealing with it in-house. And then there's a clause that basically we reserve the right to contract it out to another accredited agency, which we've
Okay,
done.
so this is why there is that other officers. Okay, so that explains it.
Yeah, if we were to take it back in-house, then we need to be very up to speed on a lot of these scopes of services and performance.
Right.
But we have contracted to another accredited agency.
Okay, fine.
And I
Just
should
wanted
mention
to
too,
know.
this is not a new agreement. It's amended slightly and tweaked just a bit, but we've always had a Safety Codes Council uniform quality management contract. We were audited last year, and we just did up a new one, new and fresh with a couple of things, and it needs council approval. But annually, this is reviewed, and we've had it for a number of years.
Okay. The same thing in appendix J. Appendix J, it says permit service report sample. Is that the way we want it to read? We want it to be a sample, so it's just a template? Is that the idea?
Oh yeah, that's fine, because we,
So that's a template?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's
All
fine.
right, thanks.
This concept of permit services and safety compliance and all those things, it has a little bit of spill over into our discussion over the last several weeks, in fact months, with Fortis. As we discussed yes or no in terms of selling or keeping the system, it became very aware to me that an area of concern is compliance with all of the safety codes that change very frequently in all these domains, whether it be electrical, whether it be plumbing, whether it be gas, whether it be public works. And I don't think there's very many small municipalities have a full-time compliance officer. And so that leaves our CAO personally liable if anything serious happens, okay? In some cases. Now, I don't know what the distinction is, whether she's liable in every case.
Yes.
I'm guessing probably not, because there's accidents that can happen. But if we've met the obligation to have a training officer, training classes, training courses with the staff, then that's the standard of care that we've met. Nonetheless, these kinds of things address a lot of that, but not all. That was one of my reservations that impacted my decision when the vote came on keeping Fortis or selling Fortis.
But
Keeping our system or selling to Fortis.
But if we understood well, that is true for any other trades. be it plumbing, be it water, be it sewer, be it whatever. There's the same level of responsibility from our CEO toward all those trades.
That's true, but
The more dangerous aspect is definitely the electrical.
did you notice when we toured the swimming pool last week, the system that they have, and I think it's a chlorine system at this point, you cannot ever have just
Yes.
one person in there. You have to have a window, and there has to be two people. And so those are the kinds of things that, and we have similar guidelines up at our chlorination plant. Well, we don't use chlorine, we use salt, don't we?
In the pool.
In the pool, we use
Pool is
salt,
salt,
but there's
but the
chlorine.
Water
That's
treatment.
water
Chlorine
treatment.
and
But up here,
water.
water
Water
treatment,
treatment does.
we have, you gotta have two
Chlorine,
people
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, so, yeah, I just wondered if Jeff could speak to, I understand the liabilities that the CEO is under, but where we have these contracted out to a contractor, does that change that somewhat?
Yeah, there's a little distinction here I want to make. What we're talking about with Park Enterprises and with this document, the Safety Codes Council, has to do with mostly construction, safety, electrical inspections, gas inspections, those things. As long as we are contracted with an accredited agency and we feel, and we don't have any reason to believe that they are doing inferior work, then yes, our liability should be mitigated. As far as health and safety and well-being of our employees, that deals with occupational health and safety, which we have a thorough program. And again, provided we show due diligence in what we're doing in our training and all that, then again, liability is mitigated, particularly personally by any staff member.
A supplementary question. We have the part for the building code, gas, electrical, etc. The one that is not contracted is the fire inspections.
That's right.
And now we've got the county, it really goes under the county with the fire EMS. So I'm just wondering where we stand on the fire inspections. Is it considered in-house? But like I say, it's not really the town particularly, it's the basically Cardston County EMS, right?
Yeah, the formal agreement, I apologize, I don't know enough about, but yes, Danny and I think Spencer are the two trained and accredited inspectors that are responsible to do fire inspections on facilities. We also have, and we do in-house, and we've also this year hired a third-party business to inspect our facilities and to do some things like that to make sure we're all up to code and compliant. So so we've used them to come and do some inspections, and Robert, our electrician, will also do fire system inspections for all of our facilities. I do not know the formal arrangement between us and emergency services for fire inspection for the town.
How that goes down.
I can find out, but just on me right now, I don't know.
Well, Jeff, I want to ask you then, for example, I know when a new house is built, do we have a fire inspection? Go and see that everything is hunky-dory?
Not necessarily on a new house.
No, Park Enterprises has to do all the inspections at the regulated times of construction, and that includes the gas, the electrical, the structural, mechanical, everything like that.
Okay, so no new business or business existing are required to have a fire inspection?
I can't speak to the provincial requirement, I just don't know off the top of my head.
That'd be nice to know.
Yeah, and I'll look into this formal arrangement for fire inspection and the regulation.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
And we can recommend to,
If I might, Mr. Chairman, if council, aside from the fire questions, but if council is amicable to this, if you could make a recommendation to council for approval on next Tuesday.
yeah, I would recommend that we accept the document as written for approval at the next council meeting.
All in favor? Okay, the next item is 7B, request from Delbert Beezer for compensation for the loss of business during the construction in that area.
Is there,
Councillor Smith?
do we have a policy on that at all? Is there anything that the town has in regards to if a business is affected by work or anything like that? 'Cause I mean, I don't know. I don't imagine, I don't know how often this happened in the past or whatever, but well, maybe we should write something up on that in case there is something
Administration?
down the line as well.
In the past, and again, I've only been here for a few years, but what we try and do is work with the businesses to mitigate anything during the course of the construction on a case-by-case basis. So for example, we did some work on Main Street with a sewer line that affected 3 businesses that couldn't be open when we did it. So we actually did the work over a Sunday and holiday Monday. So, you know, we try and mitigate when we can. In this case, the problem was we had met with Mr. Beezer, and we felt, and I think kind of had an agreed acceptable time frame, but they ran into some major water problems predominantly down there, where they couldn't get that road repacked, and they were pumping water out of there for some time. We actually ran into an old storm manhole that wasn't anticipated either, that had to be pulled out and refilled. So this did go on longer than he had hoped. So no, we don't have something written in stone saying here's our compensation policy, because I think that would be quite difficult to pin down case by case. But yes, if we do anticipate those kind of things, we really try and mitigate with those businesses at each project.
Councillor Creed?
I'll just tell you, my gut feeling when I read this is that I wouldn't touch it without a legal opinion. And then having said that, if the legal opinion is going to cost us a lot of money, I'd just give it to Delbert instead. But anyway, that's my thought.
I don't know who you could retain for under $750, but
Yeah,
maybe.
right, exactly.
Mayor Scott?
I'm guessing Delbert has a license for his business down there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is this Delbert Beezer's personal business or Chief Mountain Gas Co-op business?
According to the way it's signed, it should be Chief Mountain Gas.
That's why I'm asking the question. Is
But we do not know
it personal or is
that.
it
You would
Chief
know that.
Mountain?
Why does it make a difference?
It's a personal compensation or a business
But no,
compensation.
my anticipation is the check would hypothetically go to Chief Mountain Gas Co-op.
Right.
But it's basically a campground that he has. I actually wasn't aware that he had a campground.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a campground.
It's rarely used.
Councillor Cronin?
Here is what I'm thinking. No one should ever lose revenue because of town problem. Having said that, I also believe that it's very difficult to know why the attendance dropped. Was it caused by the road closure, or was it some other reason? We don't really know. The best we can assume is to figure out that he says loss of revenue of $750, and my mathematics seems to be 650, but
No.
Or even-
The 25% to coincide with what our campground.
so it's the increase of that. So all that is based on a really subjective judgment. But I think we should maybe look at some sorts of compensation, but I agree that we should have a policy in place. That would be a useful thing.
Councillor?
Excuse me.
As Jeff explained, this is a water problem which they hadn't anticipated. I'd almost liken that to an act of God. And do we compensate for an act of God?
Oh,
We were
God didn't put
compensated for
that,
the hill.
he didn't put that storm
Put the new
drain
sewer
in. We
line
did
in.
it 55 years ago or whenever we did it, so.
Councillor Smith?
Well, it would have been nice if you would have given us more than 1 year of revenue records or whatever. And just-
Yeah, we don't.
But I mean, that's something that can't be covered through insurance either, I don't imagine, or, like, I don't mind, compensating him for what he's asking. I realize, like you say, it's going on longer than it should have or whatever, and you did have something agreed upon, in principle before that,
And
but,
we don't know how many booking he had that he could not honor. It doesn't say.
but that wouldn't be covered under his insurance.
No, I think, I doubt it highly. A couple things with this. One is, I talked to Bart about the dates, and Bart says, those are accurate on the dates, and I don't think he's being unreasonable in asking for 7,500, for example. Yeah, but so he's being reasonable, I think, in the request, and we do incur those kind of costs in major projects. This was an $800,000 project. And along the way, we are going to incur some of those costs. We had on Brad Beezer's property where we had to move poles off the boulevard and then move them back. And, so to accommodate certain landowners along the way, we do incur costs. Yes, this one was unexpected. And no, we didn't anticipate the amount of water in there that caused a lot of trouble before we could get it backfilled. And yes, it was closed off to his entire business, not just the campground. You couldn't go to the gas co-op for some time. So, some things to consider.
But he didn't ask for compensation for his business.
Not necessarily, no.
Scott?
It's highly possible, and quite frankly, even likely, that because of interrupted access to his area down there, lots of those people would have gone down to the Lee Creek campground. Having said that, I don't want to split hairs. My motion is that he be compensated as per his request, that his loss, as he's given to us between 2011 and 2012, be compensated, and anticipating the possible increase that would have corresponded with Lee Creek Campground's increase, I move we give him the $750.
We spent more time than
We
it's
recommend to
worth.
council that he be given the $750.
Legal advice costs more than that.
Counselor Smith?
No, I was just gonna recommend, but the mayor just did it, so.
Just one question on that. Would that have the potential of opening us up for other people making similar requests? I'm just wondering if there's a precedent. Is there
We'll have a policy
possibility
in
that somebody
place.
else in the area?
Yeah, I don't know of anyone else in the area that, again, we dealt with Jack Malin, we dealt with Brad Beezer, we did deal with them all down the line. Everyone else had access one way or another. His was just in a really unfortunate spot.
Okay, so this would be, I'm just trying to find out if this is
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
a fair, if this
Sure.
is a fair request, and
I don't anticipate anybody else. No one's come to us, no one said anything. We actually have agreements with the other property owners of remediating the site and doing things like that, that I think everything's being fulfilled. So I don't foresee anything with other property owners.
Well, I agree with what's been said. I would also like to see maybe this group, direct administration, to come up with some kind of a policy.
Let's see, I really feel so.
Scott?
And Councillor Creed might be actually addressing the bigger question of this event and other events. And we have some precedent that we try to work and avoid handicaps, disadvantages. All of the construction around Edmonton Convention area that we just saw last week, I can't begin to imagine the impact on a lot of those businesses, in Edmonton, in that area on Jasper Avenue. I don't know what the cities do, but I think when we do create a policy, if we do, it better be loaded with generalities, because you just can't, that's a moving target, and it's almost impossible to nail down specifics. Words like where possible, where, those kinds of things.
I don't think that Calgary compensates any businesses when they're doing construction. Otherwise, half their budget would go for compensation.
I did notice with Edmonton, there was still access to all those stores, with the exception maybe 108th Street where we had that one meeting, but all the stores, there was still access to those stores.
But this one had no
This one
access,
had no access.
and that's the difference.
We're always going to have disruptions to businesses in our town when we do repairs, etc. And do we compensate all the business for the disruption? This was an extremely long one because of the problems that we inherited with it. But if you have a policy, as the mayor says, it's got to be so general, it'd be almost worth nothing.
Well, then maybe we shouldn't have a policy, we should just go case by case. I don't know, because there's so many different things that could happen,
That's right.
and length of
But
time
if-
factors into it.
But even if we have a policy that states that it's a
Yeah,
case by
policy.
case,
Yeah.
then it still gives you the feeling that we will deal with it but through mitigation, whichever way.
Councillor Scott?
And words
Commissioner?
that carry a disclaimer. Because in a policy like you've alluded to, Councillor Dow and councillors, we want to have a disclaimer that we may fall back on if we need to. A disclaimer of liability kind of thing.
Jeff wants to say.
One thing that's important to note, when we do these major contracts like we did here, and we contract a third party, in those contracts, they have to provide transportation plans, mitigation plans, all those types of things. When it's known going in that you're going to cause inconvenience to a business or home or something like that, they have to provide the plans for how they're getting people in and out, how they're doing that. And in this case, we did have a plan with the gas co-op. It just, we ran into some problems. So generally, when there are damages, financial damages, those are considered in the contract.
Right.
And they're dealt with, right? We ran into some extenuating circumstances here, and I guess in some ways, this is a relatively reasonable request to mitigate damages.
Okay, well,
Would the contractor share in that, or not?
No, because it wasn't something of their doing. They didn't have a breakdown, or they didn't take the crew and leave for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't something, they were there, they were trying to mitigate it, they were on it.
They participated in the plan. and they were-
It was our problem,
well, it just
historical
happened.
problem.
Yeah.
Can I ask how long the project was originally supposed to go for and how long it actually did go for?
It probably went about 3 weeks longer than it was going to. It took them about 2 weeks, excuse me. It took them about 2 weeks extra at the very beginning just to go from the north side of Southwest Concrete right along the creek just to the intersection of 1st and 2nd. That actually took probably more than twice the time expected, just because of every utility under the sun was there. Utilities that we didn't know were under the ground, like old storm manholes and things like that, were all in there. And the increasing water infiltration. They just couldn't get a good trench going. It was so wet. So yeah, just that part alone was almost more than double.
So are we basically that compensation amount just for the 3 weeks then at the end?
Well, again, Delbert's property is right at that beginning as well, right? So what should have been a 4 or 5 day project in front of his building was a month. You know, it went that long, and we actually had to leave that patch of the road open all the way until 3 weeks ago, almost, just to keep pumping it out until we could get compaction. And our guys went in to do most of that work to try and keep the contract costs from going up at all. So yeah, that first stretch was the longest stretch by far. We were running perpendicular to all the utilities, and then once we turned, we were running parallel with utilities. So once they found an open area, away they went. But that first stretch was perpendicular to everything you can imagine.
Just for my,
Discussion?
just for my information, in that $800,000 contract, is there any money left?
Yeah, there was a few $1,000s.
So we can
Yeah, I
take
think
it
it's
out
a
of
reasonable
that?
expense into the capital project,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Well then, it's done.
In relation to the value of the contract, we're talking pennies.
1%, not even.
Let's get with it.
Okay, all in favor of the recommendation?
1/10 of 1%.
Okay, 8A, major projects report. Any questions on that?
I have some questions. As I reviewed this today, I checked the date when the projects were finished and what's left to be done, and I'm wondering why it's taking 3 or 4 months to get a tidbit done. Maybe Jeff can answer that
Sure.
question.
Man, all of a sudden I have a frog in my throat here. I apologize for that. I'm sure it sounds great in the microphone back there, Corey. So the dates on here were when we did our budget last year, when we anticipated start and ending dates. And things like the sanitary trunk main installation, we've just, for example, got on the west side of First Street. It's still wet. We're still doing some compaction. We're trying to get it dried out enough that we can get more fill in there. So there's just a few little things carrying on, and you know, they're nothing major. I'm looking at like water plant studies almost done. East Tot Lot just has a little bit of trees to take out, some little shoots that are coming up. Community irrigation line, they're just working on backfilling. So this was our best hope when we did it last year. I didn't change the dates throughout the year. We left in kind of our schedule. And yeah, we do have a few little tidy ups just as weather and schedules have allowed.
Well, like your St. Mary's intake housing.
Yeah.
You got a little electrical to do.
Yep.
Your St. Mary's bank stabilization. You're gonna do some of it next spring, part of it was done this year.
Yep.
And I just wondered why we're not getting finished, because we got a date to start, a date to finish, yet we drag it on and drag it on.
Circumstances.
Yeah, it's not that we're sitting somebody at the project for a couple months to finish up the last 5%. Like with First Street in front of Southwest Concrete, it's soft, and we've been continuing to bring in gravel and crush concrete and try and get it to compaction. But the truth of the matter is, it's not 100% complete.
No.
And we'll kind of continue to baby that as weather makes us baby it over the year. So the electrical on the irrigation line, that was one also that they wanted to get everything in and down there and in place by winter, and the electrical can be done, here anytime now. Even if it gets inclement, we can still finish that up quite readily. We also had one of our electricians take ill, and he's the guy that has to do it, and he's off for a little while. So lots of factors. I'm not trying to make excuses.
No.
Just saying that we're on top of it. It's nothing that's going to keep the project from succeeding. Just some odds and ends.
Councillor Croon?
I just would like to know, the roof on the senior center, any word on the insurance as to what's happening there?
Yes.
Oh, it's maybe not so good.
We wanted to get going on these projects, and we were going to order product in and get people on the roof. Our insurance company asked us not to do that. They wanted to have all of their analysis done prior to us doing any repairs, which has been a little difficult. So we've got everything in now, and now we've just got to get some guys on the roof.
Yeah, good look.
But as of just this week.
Okay.
So we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for them to do their full assessment, and they asked us specifically not to do improvements in the interim.
Now, for the electrical upgrade, I know that our crew could not do it so long we were in negotiation or whatever. But are they able to do anything
Yeah.
still?
This week, you may have seen them, or if you want to, they've put all new poles up 2nd Avenue from 3rd Street to probably up to about 5th. So yeah, they're on it. They put all new poles, new wires, they've transferred everything over. So yeah, they got right back on the, get as much of this year's budgeted amount done as they can, so.
And I just want to ask you, on the east side, where you had the connection between the home sewer lines and the main sewer line,
Yep.
that has been completed pretty close.
Yeah, I think there's still, I
Passed by
haven't,
yesterday.
Yeah.
They have to repave
yeah, I haven't asked, but I think there may still be one.
or one house.
We just got a phone call today. I think the one on the end was just done either yesterday or today.
Done yesterday.
I haven't asked today where they're at, but I think they got to be pretty darn close to having all the affected ones done.
And the insurance is going to pay? No?
No. We don't, well, I should say, we do not know how our insurance company's dealing with their personal financial losses. That is not determined.
Okay.
But as far as the repairs to the line, no, we are paying those costs.
Thank you.
Is anything happening on the Atkins development, or is it,
We literally haven't heard anything on that this year.
so, like we gave an extension a while back?
Yeah, it's going. I know that we'll see occasional things, but no, I don't know what's going on with that right now. In the last couple months anyway, it's been fairly quiet. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we'll get a flood and that will solve the problem.
Well, I do know one of the big hurdles, and I think he's close, is dealing with exactly where the floodway and fringe and the environmental reserve and all that is exactly going to lay out coming off the creek. I know that's caused a real hurdle that I think they're close to getting through now.
So he's dealing with the Department of the Environment on that?
Yeah, Old Man River End Department of Environment, yeah, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on projects? We have our September report there for committee as a whole.
Can I?
I have one question. Under our land policy, what's the status, Jeff, of Mike Schaefer's land?
We have not proceeded with the sale on it because there is a levy on the West Industrial area that we want to review as part of this whole levy process. And Mike probably does not want to purchase that right now with the amount of that levy. So I keep in fairly close contact with Mike. We talk regularly.
Thank you.
But until we determine that, it's a substantial levy. And some of the work we did this year, actually, not to get into a whole thing here, but let me back up a step. When we were looking at the one company interested in the 10 acres and Mike Schaefer's, Nolan was starting to put the sales agreements together and said, hey, Jeff, just so you know, are you aware of the levy on this? And I said, you know what, I wasn't. And so as we started to review the levy, we realized that some of the projects we used to put the cost together for the levy, we have done some of them and the costs have came in potentially under what we had budgeted years ago when we made the levy. And also things like the project we did this year will make it not necessary to do some that were factored into the costs of the levy originally up there. So we would like to take a step back and review all of that and bring back a new number before we go ahead, because it may impact both the one customer wanting the 10 acres and this customer on their potential desire to buy the land if the levy's too high.
Okay. Can I ask you, we have here some action lists. On the action list, it says arrange pool presentation for October the 2nd.
Yeah.
And
Here we are.
Here we are.
He's asked to come next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Scott?
Guess we can ask this question when Dwayne comes next Tuesday, but, we have to wonder after our tour of the pool in Edmonton, which quite frankly, in my mind, worked out extremely well. We had, a great couple of people that gave us lots of information. And I guess my point would really be this in your conversation with Dwayne. Tell him that we visited that pool in Edmonton, the Glenora Club pool, and that he needs to give us some assurances from people that he's talked to, people with some assurable, some knowledge, credibility. Otherwise, we're going to be spinning our wheels and wasting time, which was sort of one of the reasons we've sort of given him some renewed life, that maybe there is a possibility of having an extended pool season. So my point really is, he needs to sort of give us some assurances when he comes on the 11th that a 25-meter pool, 5 lanes wide, is affordable to cover with that style of construction. And failing that, we need to go back to square one and move forward with sort of our original plan that we will stay outside and that we will, put some frills and remodel the building and move forward with that.
I also think that the point there was,
I think some time ago, we voted in this council not to have a covered pool. We were negative on a covered pool. And I appreciate the tour we had of the Glenora facility. It was a fantastic facility. But I think we have to look at what can we in Cardston afford to build.
Pool was an indoor year-round pool is what we discussed earlier.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, Councillor Dowell's statements notwithstanding, that group of people that came to us, Dwayne Beezer and whoever else that's part of that, they felt and gave us some assurances that within the amount that we've been budgeting in our minds, $2.5 million for an outdoor facility, they thought, and maybe still do think, that they can come in with that style of pool extending the season a month on the front and a month on the back, something like that, was affordable. So that's the purpose for my question. If that style of pool is not as affordable as they were hoping, then yes, we move back to Plan A and move forward with an outdoor model. So that's why I made the comment that I did, that they need to give us some assurances that we're not wasting our time and incurring more cost when we know that the kind of cost that a year-round covered pool is not where we're going to go. So I hope that addresses your
It does,
question.
but I think we have to look at what is the impact on the taxpayers of this town.
But they were given a mandate, Council, they were given a mandate. They had to come back with a model of a pool style that had some
It's up
numbers
to
that
it.
might be affordable, and that the operational model had to also be affordable. That's the mandate they were given.
How long are they going to have?
Well,
Next week.
Is it a forever exercise?
could be next week. No, could be next week. Could be next week on the 9th that they come to us. So I think your concerns they're well stated, but they are addressed in the mandate that was sort of given to Dwayne Beezer and those folks that are working with him on his project.
Any other discussion on the report? If not, we'll go on to 9A, a letter from the University of Alberta inviting us to Equilibrium. We'll be looking into problems with alcohol. Nurse Scott?
Mr. Chairman, there's a certain irony here. That irony being that there is no alcohol licensing in Cardston. Now, that's not to say that there's not alcohol out there. We know there is, because people just have to buy it in Lethbridge, or in the summer they can go to Waterton and
Bring it
buy
here.
it. Anyway, so that's, in my mind, not something that we would have the pressing motivation to pursue involvement in.
We do have that, it's a problem in the area with that.
Also when you look at the police report, there's an awful lot.
Okay, item 9B, a letter from the Barley Council.
So can you help me
Canada.
understand that?
I want to know where they get their authority from to set this up and request that we support them. I'm just wondering where that came from. I'm not ready to make a motion for it, but
One would think that after they got rid of the wheat board, that why would they want a Barley Council?
Well, that's what I wanted. I tried to understand.
nobody makes a motion, then worry about it.
They've listed their participant organizations in there.
We just turfed the wheat board.
I know.
Now we got
why-
another barley council.
But this is, I would
It's a
expect
council,
this
it's
is
not a board.
this is a choice or an open, it's not a mandatory.
Grassroots farmer-led organization.
So, that's okay.
I don't think that's something
Nurse
the
Scott?
county.
And there's a certain amount of irony here as well. We don't have a lot of barley that's been harvested in the last 150 years within the corporate limits of the town of Cardston, and I realize that that's not necessarily a requirement of participating in the Barley Council of Canada, but
So can we get a recommendation one way or the other? Do we want to?
No,
Just drop it.
drop it.
I don't think they should be coming to the town.
Maybe, I don't know. Do we even reply to
I just
those?
think it might be more appropriate for the county
If
to.
you get a beer plant here, it might be
Probably just
appropriate.
looking for as much support as they can
Yeah.
find from whoever, so.
No, it was not really.
The last piece of correspondence is from the Alberta Centre for Injury Control and Research.
So you guys over 65 don't fall down in November.
Well, in this town, there's a fair amount of people who get hurt.
there is.
And the snow is going to come and they will get hurt. And so I wondered if this would be of great interest to our senior center director, Mr. Purnell, and something like that be passed along to him.
Yeah, the question here really is, does council wish to declare the month of November Seniors Fall Prevention Month,
And
which
I
is
think that's
one
a good
interesting
thing.
declaration.
But didn't I have something regarding information that I could get or something?
Does it
Yeah.
cost us anything to declare senior?
No, there is a campaign plus educational material that can be provided, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was
So we can
thinking
pass
the-
it on to Leonard?
That's the portion I thought could be useful.
Michelle?
Let me just maybe make a suggestion that in the next week or two, we maybe have some dialogue with the seniors organizations, and find out what they plan to do. We should talk with them and see if, maybe jointly as long as they're going to sort of be informed of it and deal with, maybe have some information, like you say, some education. But let's have some discussion with the seniors organizations in the community. Is there some FCSS activity involving seniors?
I mean, there is a whole,
I don't think they've received any information on this so far. I could forward it to,
but there's a provincial kind of desire to kind of make our towns more senior friendly. That is almost a mandate the province now has.
Councillor Court?
In as much as we do have a fairly,
Provincial, but it's trickling down. So,
give me my school teacher. In as much as we do have a fair number of seniors in here, and all they're asking for us is to proclaim this month Seniors Fall Prevention Month, I would make a recommendation that we do so at the next council meeting. That'd be my motion.
Any further discussion? Councillor Creed?
I don't really have a problem with that, other than I'd like to be positive in the information I read is that things you focus on, you attract. I would probably rather be a seniors well-being proclamation, but we probably don't have that choice of changing the direction of it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of the recommendation? Okay.
Move to go to camera, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all in favor?